welcome to the Giraffe Social Media Podcast. It's what social media managers are talking about. I'm Katie, and today I'm joined by Ellie and Chloe.
Hello.
Hi. Coming up on this week's episode, we'll be discussing why authenticity is key on social media and how you can achieve this. Stick around to the end of the show where we'll be answering some of your burning DMs. Okay, so we are officially in January now. Christmas and New Year feel like distant memories. Blue Monday is coming up and the weather is absolutely miserable where I am. I don't know about you guys. But how are you guys trying to combat your January blues?
Great question, Katie. Before I get into it, fun fact, did you know that Blue Monday is a social media holiday created by like a travel company?
I read about that actually.
To go away on holiday during January, which ironic given current times. So I won't be going on holiday to combat the January blues, but I am going to the gym as often as possible. Like, I just really find that exercising and moving my body lifts the spirits. Although I do go before work, which means a 6 a.m. wake up, which kind of takes away from the good feelings waking up in the dark, dreary rain most days. So that's what I'm up to, but I'm curious to hear what you guys are doing.
I mean, I have to say I am along the same lines as you, Chloe. I have been going to the gym, and I have also been, I can't say I was doing a 6 a.m. wake up because my gym is literally around the corner. But I have been waking up earlier, and I have been going on walks as well. So I think just getting a bit of fresh air. I've been doing a few like wet walks with my umbrella. Getting absolutely battered, but it's fine. Just pretend I'm in like Dubai or something. A girl can dream.
God, you guys are so active. I sound so lazy. I haven't done any of that. Although I have been doing like some big like cleans, reorganize, like rejuvenate across the flat. Like all of like the weekend I was spending like in the wardrobe and in my drawers, just like going through, clearing out some stuff I didn't use anymore. Took like 3 bags to a charity shop and 1 to a textiles bin. Like there was a major sort out here.
That's so productive.
Nice.
I know. It was just like the weather was so grim as well. I was like, I'm not leaving. I'm not going outside.
I do love a bit of a like January redecoration, rehaul of the house. Like, I've been buying more plants. I've been like scouting new home decor, like flipping my bedroom furniture, not my bedroom, my living room furniture around. You know when you just like get the urge to completely change like a room layout. So I'm with you there. Yeah.
Oh. So that's how we're shaking our January blues. Let us know how you're going into 2022. Moving on to our main segment of this week's episode, we're going to be talking about authenticity and what this means for your social media presence. So, if the past few years have taught us anything, I think we can all agree it's highlighted the consumer need for human and authentic content on socials, especially when it comes to brands. But if you don't believe us, Sprout Social has even identified that 90% of consumers say that authenticity is important when choosing the brands they like and support. So being real and creating authentic content can forge a deeper connection with customers, encouraging brand loyalty and taking the bond past sales. Additionally, customers have a sense of self that comes from the brands they support, so knowing that they support brands that are genuine and authentic make them feel good about their choices. Now, there's arguably no better place to create an authentic persona than on social media. Arguably, everyone is trying to portray the fact that what they are putting online is their real life, regardless of whether it's your personal account or your brand account. And especially with the in-depth community creation available through social media, this is just the perfect tool for that. So, now we know why. Let's discuss how we make our social media presence appeal authentic and humanized. So, here's the floor, guys. Tell me your top tips.
I'll start off with the most obvious one, which is like showing up and showing your face. And as often as possible, really. I know this is like especially for small business owners, if it's kind of just you. This is like super daunting. But it is really important to show the people behind your brand, even if it is just you, because as you kind of said, Katie, it forges that connection, and people are, as we always say on this podcast, more likely to buy from people. So that's kind of like my top tip. And I think the easiest way to do this, and probably kind of the most common amongst brands of any sizes, is to participate in like those national days. Particularly at Giraffe, this is the way that we like to get our team involved. It used to be just me on there, but I do like to wrangle a few members of the team in on the odd, Christmas jumper day we did recently, and things like that. But I guess Reels and TikTok as well have made showing up and showing your face like so much easier these days, because you can post like behind the scenes content, and that in itself kind of allows you an out if you don't want to show your face. Like behind the scenes content is a really like another trust builder. It's also really interesting for people to kind of see the processes behind your brand, especially if you have some sort of manufacturing line. I love watching that kind of stuff on TikTok.
I love that. I lose so many hours watching like how it's made stuff.
Yes, especially skincare. I like seeing it go into the bottle like all pretty.
Yes.
Yeah, we're finding out the insights into what you guys do in your free time now.
Oh yeah, this is how I'm shaking my January blues.
Yeah. So yeah, trending content as well, Q&As, all that jazz is like super easy ways and really good excuses, I guess, for you to jump in front of the camera. You know, we see a lot, maybe more on the influencer side of stuff, but people kind of hopping on stories or whatever for the sake of it, not really saying anything. But yeah, behind the scenes and like Q&As is a really good excuse and provides really valuable content for your followers as well. And stories as well are another one. If you kind of haven't really ever got the hang of video editing, that you kind of have to get into Reels and TikTok, stories are like the number one way of connecting on Instagram, especially if you're kind of not really posting. You can jump on there. A really easy way is jumping on just to announce that you've posted something new. I know we at Giraffe, we used to have the podcast hosts jump on the stories and announce a new episode, which maybe we'll get back into now. It's a new year, so watch this space to catch me and Ellie and Katie on the stories there. So that's my number one tip.
Oh, I love that. Especially like, I mean, you mentioned like having like where influencers are showing up as well. Like I think bringing in influencers onto your brand and your campaign as well. Like you can either do a takeover or you can like have like do deals with them where like you send them product, they give you a review and like a post or a story post in return, and you can then share that onto your page if you're feeling a little bit shy yourself, or like you don't want a like your own face to the brand, which is fine. Like not everyone's into that, and there's just like nice ways around it that mean that your brand doesn't come across as just, you know, soulless and no one's behind it, you know.
Absolutely. I guess like influencer content, or even just like user generated content, and showing if it's not the faces behind the brand, it's the faces in front, the customer base. It does kind of tie in with that aspirational content, which doesn't always kind of go hand in hand with authentic content, but it does kind of help give a face to your brand and show, like, give context behind your brand and show customers like what their life could be like, especially when it comes to that influencer stuff. So yeah, I totally agree.
And like if you maintain that relationship with like certain influencers as well, and they continue like showing publicly that you two have like a brand relationship, like it's going to make you seem more like, you know, human and real, and there's people actually interacting. It's not just like a one and done deal.
Totally.
I mean, I was just going to jump on like what you said about the user generated content, and obviously like use it to try and tell the story of your brand without necessarily using influencers. I know influencer marketing is like a massive thing, but obviously using what you've got in front of you, from, you know, customer created content, user generated content, and even case studies as well is a really good one, to kind of humanize your brand and kind of not show it's showing a face behind the brand, but obviously showing customer stories rather than just your favorite influencer giving a product review, for example.
Yeah.
So that's a really great way of like engaging your customers as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I often find with user-generated content, you see a lot of influencers when they do, not all influencers, of course, this is typically like the bigger influencers who have less of an incentive to get a bit more creative, but it's kind of a selfie of them holding whatever product it is, or, you know, in a flat lay, and it's a little bit less contextualized. I know I keep saying that word, but it fits. But typically with your user generated content, you see that product in action, or you see that service in action, because, you know, your everyday person is not as bothered about taking this beautiful shot, and they're more likely to show it while they're using it. It's more of a captured in the moment than a well thought out, calculated kind of post. So you're so right. I think user generated content is kind of, you know, the heart of authenticity if you're talking about brand ambassadorship.
I mean, I was just going to quickly jump in. This is slightly off topic, but obviously, like with influencer marketing, it kind of draws you to the brand. But when I'm actually, I don't know if you guys are the same, but when I actually get to the brand pages on social media, for example, it will be like the customer reviews, like type posts, or like customer testimonials, that type of thing, or like even reels. They'll be the things that kind of draw me in, because I know they're not being paid to do that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Definitely. I guess kind of off the bat of that, my second tip would be to avoid hard selling. So it loosely ties into the influencer marketing, but as small businesses, as regular businesses, like we really do rely on sales, but they do kind of, you know, the hard sell post comes across as the most disingenuous post there is. You know, we all have to do it, but it's not really the best way to form a connection and to show off your brand's authenticity. So instead of, you know, really focusing on the hard selling and pushing the products, focus on how you can help your customers reach their goal instead. I know, you know, 2019, 2020, the buzzword of the year was value, that we should be creating content with value, whatever that meant. But, you know, when you take a look, it's things like addressing pain points. That's a really nice way to kind of get around the hard sell and flip it on its head, is identifying a gap in the market or in the industry and kind of showing how your product can help someone achieve whatever it is they're trying to do. And another thing is creating valuable content. So to give an example, at Giraffe, pretty much across all of our social media, as opposed to trying to find new leads or generate sales, we're trying to help people in social media. We're trying to provide actionable tips and tricks about social media, about the industry. And that really does form the bulk of our content, because it's more valuable to the people who follow us than us putting out cold calls for new leads every second day. And it gives them a reason to follow. Because when you think of, you know, the brands that I follow on social media, they're not the ones that are pushing their new items. I know Misguided, I always talk about them, but they just kind of come to the top of mind. But they're posting memes, they're posting user-generated content, they're participating in content days, like they're up to date on pop culture news. Like that's the type of stuff that they post. And they still actively show up in my feed, but in a way that's a bit more incognito than if they were shoving new dresses down my throat. I definitely wouldn't be following them then. And that is loosely valuable content. I know memes are not really as important.
They're valuable
as educational
to me.
Content. Yeah, but they're entertaining, right? So you got to kind of walk that fine line between entertaining and educating your audience and you know, shoving products down their throats. So yeah, that's another really important one for me.
I mean, I was just gonna add in, kind of on the back of that, again, like you said, like loosely linking in, as we like to say, is kind of being honest and transparent with your audience. So talking about, you know, successes and failures within your brand, and then you're connecting a community who want to help you, who will be engaging in your content. So, you know, that is humanizing your brand, that is authenticating your brand, which is ultimately the aim.
Yeah, no, it's interesting that you mentioned about like making sure you're honest with like your mistakes, because I think especially at the moment, like consumers are very hyper vigilant of, you know, brands, and like if you maybe do a wrong step and experience some backlash, don't double down, like, or, you know, if you've got a customer who's had like a bad experience, don't necessarily double down on that. Like, you know, everyone makes mistakes. It's a very human thing to do. Like, you just kind of just go with it. I mean, like, we've had it a little while back where one of our clients, they focus on sexual health, and we've had like someone message before and be like, oh, you should be using more like inclusive and less gendered language. And instead of us being like, no, you're wrong, we're right, it was just a case of, you know, we see you, we hear you, we're gonna make those improvements and move on with that. And I think people are just extremely receptive to that because it's very much like a human response.
Mm-hmm. You're so right. I think like this one in particular has been kind of at the height of 2020 is super important. We saw a lot of brands kind of having to own up to their whatever issues, whether it's like more inclusivity over the BLM movement, or yeah, as you said, like kind of just being a bit more aware of people's situations during the pandemic. And you kind of have to remember, like, it sucks to get negative feedback or to be critiqued or to be called out, but at the end of the day, any way that you can turn that around, it's only going to help your business grow. And I think in particular, like you think of the fashion industry at the height of BLM, like a lot of brands are being called out for, you know, not showing POC models or not having people of different body sizes. And, you know, if you take that feedback on and then kind of implement it, you're only helping yourself, because now, you know, not only are you showing that as a brand you're willing to listen and like put these suggestions into action, but you're now, I hate to say it, but reaching a new audience by being more inclusive and being more diverse. And, you know, you might get more plus size customers or you might get more POC customers because they've seen that representation there. So yeah, I love that one, Ellie. That's a really good tip.
One other thing that I think is quite often overlooked, and I think it all comes down to like brand persona as well, but your tone of voice and keeping that consistent is potentially one of the easiest ways, in my opinion, to like create a humanized brand. Because if you're like following an account and like every comment and every caption you see feels like it's written by a different person, that's gonna feel off and like it doesn't feel as comforting. And I'm not saying like, oh, you've got to be friendly and be like, hey, hun, all of that stuff. But, you know, just like a little bit of like warmth and friendliness if it works with your brand. But if you're not going with that, just make sure you keep it consistent, and then people are feeling like they're talking to the same person every time, even if they're not.
Even if your like brand tone of voice is not friendly and warm, like you're a bit more separated from your audience and you're a bit more, let's say like your brand voice is acting as more of a leader than kind of a friend, then in keeping that consistent, like that doesn't mean that you're not approachable as a brand, but the more consistent you are across that, the more that people can expect that from you, which makes you a bit more trustworthy and approachable, I guess, in a way. So you don't have to be adding exclamation points and emojis to every caption. Just so long as you're consistent with that, like people will learn to expect that from you, and that builds trust in its own. So
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
I was also going to say about community management. I know we usually touch on this on most podcasts every now and then, but that also like adds an element of authenticity, because you're engaging with your customers. You know, you are the voice of that brand. So by responding to the customers, you know, they're going to want to engage with you more, and, you know, click on your posts more, etc., buy your products, whatever service you're trying to sell. So that's indirectly boosting sales without really doing very much, apart from just being a person.
Just being real.
Being real, yeah.
There you go. There's some ways to make your brand appear authentic and humanized. But did we miss anything? As we said, you know, admit to your mistakes. So if you think we missed anything, let us know your top tips at GiraffeSM. So, a new study by Consumer Technology Association, very big name, has found that US consumers now spend almost as much time streaming videos on social platforms as they do watching traditional TV. Now, I enjoy statistics, so I'm going to read these out for a sec. Out of over 2,000 respondents, user-created content now accounts for 39% of weekly media hours consumed by Americans, versus 61% for traditional media. And to break that down a little bit more, it was found that traditional TV consumption takes up 18% of overall media consumer time, against 16% for user-generated content online. So there's just like 2% in it, really. So, what do we think about this? Are we shocked? Is that cool? I think it's cool.
I mean, I love this. I think this is great. And it's just showing like the move into user generated content, which we can't, were touching on just a minute ago. And I have to say, like, I don't really watch TV anymore. I don't know about you guys. That might be like a really unpopular comment I've just made. But like, I would typically watch like YouTube over watching a TV show. Like, it takes a lot for me to get hooked onto something. So I kind of just tend to have like podcasts on in the background, or if I go for a walk, I'll have podcasts on. So for me, this isn't really a surprise, but I love to see it. So
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't consume a lot of like free to air live television, but Netflix, Disney Plus, I'm all across that. But yeah, I gotta say I wasn't surprised by this statistic, like just based off my everyday habits and kind of taking a wild stab at maybe yours too. I kind of guessed this. But I guess one thing that kind of comes to my mind as you were reading out those stats, Katie, is on TikTok when shows like Jimmy Fallon, the Late Show, like they started creeping onto TikTok, and at first I was like, oh, what are you doing here? Like, get off.
Everyone gets their pitchforks and torches.
Yeah, get back to your own medium. But now I kind of love it, especially Jimmy Fallon and Graham Norton in particular, like when they pop their shows and little snippets and segments from their shows on TikTok. I'm such a fan because I don't know where you watch those shows on TV. Like, I'm not on TV enough to know like what channel to find those. So now that they're on TikTok, I'm loving it, and I officially have no other reason. I need like BBC News to get on TikTok and to jump onto my For You page, and then I'm sorted because I have no other reason to tune into live TV now.
I love that. But like, I don't know, like it's interesting that you like said about like traditional TV ending up on places like TikTok. Like, even if it's like unofficial and probably against copyright, but I'm no snitch, so but like quite often I see like clips from like older TV shows like re-uploaded onto that. Like Wife Swap was a huge one for a while, and like reality TV and that, and it'll be like part 73, and I'm like, wait, what?
I mean,
I'm pretty sure I saw the entire Spider-Man No Way Home. Someone uploaded it
God.
by part to TikTok, and I said, who's got the time? Just go and see it in the cinemas. But yeah, for old TV shows, I'll make the time.
Oh god, yeah. I will sit and watch like episode 423, part 72 of an episode of Come Dine With Me. Yes, please.
What were you going to say, Ellie?
I was just going to say, I found that I have got like hooks on those part whatever, and I'll scroll right to the bottom, and I'll literally be on TikTok for a good hour just watching part by part because I'm so hooked. And I don't even watch these TV shows either, so like, it's the power of TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, not to be that person again, but when I was doing my degree, I did like do a little bit of investigation into this. It was kind of like a long form video content versus short form, and even then, like, the tide was starting to turn, and like Netflix I know it's not necessarily probably what's considered as traditional TV here. I imagine it's just mostly like satellite and free to view and all of that. But like, Netflix is definitely built in a way to keep you watching for a very long time, in a similar way to TikTok is. So it's like, if they can hold your attention for an episode, then they've kind of got you hooked. Just a fun little nugget of information there. And as well, they've got their like play something button now, which I never find works for me.
Yeah. I wonder if the percentages and the ratio is catching up so quickly, because I saw a TikTok the other day that was that TikTok has ruined my attention span so much that I actually can't watch an episode of whatever it is I'm watching without opening up TikTok and watching TikTok at the same time. So
Ooh.
I'm not surprised that number's creeping up, because there's probably like so many people that are watching TV but also have TikTok open at the same time, or whatever it is. Obviously, it's not just TikTok. But yeah, crazy.
I wonder as well, like, maybe if it's a price thing. This is just me, like, completely spitballing and going completely, like, around. Yeah, I'm going rogue. Sorry, guys. But, like, you know, TikTok is free, right? YouTube is mostly free, as long as you don't mind dealing with ads, which I am struggling to at the moment. But, like, you know, if you want Netflix and Disney Plus and Amazon Prime and Hulu, is that here or is that just America?
No, Hulu, you can get Hulu here.
Yeah, like wow, there's just so many like subscription services now to actually watch TV, and as well, like in the UK, you've got the license fee if you want to watch stuff live. Like that all just contributes, and I think like younger generations just don't want to pay. I mean, I don't want to pay.
I mean, the other thing I was gonna say, with regards to like the shift, is that again, I'm just throwing out ideas.
I love it when we go
into it.
rogue.
But I think it's because I don't know whether you guys get this as well. I'm assuming you will. But like on YouTube, when a video has ended that I've clicked on, it will automatically go on to like a suggested one based upon what I've previously watched. So then I'm like, ooh, this is exciting. And that's kind of like the same with Spotify. With like podcasts, even music, they obviously like curate different playlists based upon your listening habits. So like, whereas traditional TV, they don't have that. Obviously, you have the endless options of whatever you want to watch, but it's just not. It's not as tailored to you. So I think that's like the difference, and it's becoming more and more tailored as technology develops.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Once again, we can just blame it on the algorithm.
But no, it's funny you say that, because like thinking about it, like there's shows I've been like, oh, I really want to watch that, and then because like it comes out live on like Channel 4 or whatever, and then I just forget, and then I watch it like a couple days later when I remember about it existing, like on catch up anyway. So it's like, if traditional TV is just based off of like watching it live at the time, then I'm kind of not surprised about the shift, because we're just used to being able to get anything at any time. So if we've got to wait for something and be like, oh, it's going to be on at Sunday at 8 p.m, which is totally not when Great Pottery Throwdown's on, leave me alone. Like, I just don't remember that, and then I just watch it whenever I want.
Yeah.
We've been ruined, friends. We've been ruined as a society. We destroyed television.
Yeah.
So, what do you all think of this? Let us know your thoughts at Giraffe SM. In our latest and greatest segment, we're going to be trying to answer some of your burning questions sent to us on social media. Today's DM reads, how do I make sure I have an effective mix of authentic and brand-focused content across platforms? Or what do we think, guys?
I can take this one away.
Ooh, go for it.
Obviously, social media, there's such a wide breadth of it now in terms of the platforms that are available. Obviously, TikTok is probably the newest platform. Am I correct by saying that? Unless I'm making
I don't think you're wrong.
Yeah. And then obviously you've got Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. They're probably the primary ones, aren't they? And LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Yeah, everyone forgets about LinkedIn.
And obviously each one has a specific kind of demographic that you want to target to. So it's important to recognise that LinkedIn is very B2B. So tailor your content to be more hard selling in that respect, if that's kind of what your brand is going for. Facebook, Twitter and Instagram are very B2C, but you can also have B2B mixed in there. So one brand that we have at Giraffe, I tailor the content to different demographics that they're trying to target. So I think, it's really important just to recognise where your content can fit within the platforms, and kind of go from there. But don't lose the authenticity, because you don't need to. Even with B2B and hard selling, it's still important to have that tone of voice that Katie was talking about earlier, and keeping that authenticity.
Yeah, I
Cool.
think just another quick answer would be take a listen to
Ooh,
this
go for it.
episode. I think all the tips that we kind of covered in this episode are totally applicable to what Ellie just said. Like, cater them to each platform that you work on. Like, user generated content works so well on Instagram, but then behind the scenes content works really well on TikTok. And we've seen like a huge rise in LinkedIn. Businesses kind of getting a bit more authentic on there, whether it's participating in content days, sharing staff photos, like when they hire new people, and things like that. So yeah, I think totally like cater to the platforms that you're on, but also yeah, apply any of the tips that we touched on this episode.
Cool. No, those really good answers. Well done, guys. So that was our top DM for this week. Hopefully we've answered all your burning questions. If you'd like to be featured in next week's episode, make sure you slide into our DMs on Instagram at giraffesm. Well, that's all we've got time for today. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, or follow us if you're listening on Spotify. We'd love to hear what you thought about today's episode, so make sure you reach out on social media and let us know what you thought. We've been Giraffe Social Media, you've been amazing, and we'll see you next time.